A sound, soft but insistent, broke the crushing silence of the wilderness. It was a knock, not of a human hand, but a gentle, desperate thudding against the solid wood of the ranger's cabin door. What happened next would change everything he thought he knew about the wild. It came again, a rhythmic plea in the dead of night, a sound that did not belong in this world. Ranger Mark's eyes shot open in the darkness. His heart began a frantic, heavy rhythm against his ribs. He crept to the door, every nerve on high alert, and peered through the peephole. The sight that met his eyes defied all logic, all laws of nature. A pregnant leopard. Her belly was impossibly round and low, a testament to the new life she carried. One of her hind legs was scraped raw, inflamed and angry-looking. She was exhausted, trembling, but what truly stunned him was the look in her golden eyes. There was no menace, no predator's glare. It was pure, raw desperation, a silent appeal that cut through the barrier between their species. She was asking for sanctuary. Every fiber of his being, honed by years of survival training, screamed danger. This was an apex predator, a creature of lethal power and instinct. Letting her in was madness. But his heart, his very soul, saw something else. A mother, terrified and alone, pushed by an unimaginable force to seek help from her natural enemy. He took a deep, shuddering breath and unlocked the door. He didn't open it wide, just enough, a quiet invitation. He backed away slowly, making himself small, surrendering his dominance in his own home. She watched his every move. Then, with a pained, heavy grace, she limped across the threshold. The moment she was inside, it was as if a string had been cut. Her magnificent body gave way, and she collapsed onto the floor, a surrender so absolute it stole the air from his lungs. The silence in the cabin became a living thing, thick with a sacred, terrifying tension. The world outside, with all its rules, had ceased to exist. Mark moved with a slowness he didn't know he possessed, every creak of the floorboards sounding like a gunshot. He slid a bowl of fresh water toward her, but she ignored it. Her gaze remained locked on him, a silent, unwavering test. He understood. He had to tend to her wound. He retrieved his medical kit, his hands moving with a strange, dreamlike steadiness. He knelt, keeping a respectful distance, and held up a clean cloth for her to see, showing her his empty, harmless hands. He began to speak, his voice a low, soothing murmur, the words meaningless, the tone everything. "It's okay now. You're safe. I'm just going to help." He inched forward, the wild scent of her filling his small cabin, the smell of rain-soaked earth, of pine needles, and a faint, metallic tang of fear. He expected a warning growl, a flash of claws that could end him in a heartbeat. He received nothing. As he gently, painstakingly cleaned the angry abrasion, he felt the tremors running through her powerful body. Then, she did something that broke him open. She turned her head slightly, rested it on the floor, and for the first time since she had arrived, she closed her eyes. It was a gesture of total surrender, a pact of trust sealed in the flickering lamplight. He worked quickly, wrapping the leg loosely in a clean bandage. Then, he dragged his thickest, softest blanket from his bed and laid it near the unlit hearth. With a soft groan, she nudged herself onto it, curling into a protective ball around her swollen belly. Mark didn't sleep that night. He sat in his worn armchair, watching over her, a silent guardian for this wild queen. He was no longer just a ranger. He had become a witness to a miracle, a keeper of a sacred trust. As the first pale fingers of dawn crept through the window, the atmosphere shifted. A low, guttural groan escaped the leopard's throat, and her body tensed. The miracle was beginning. Mark retreated to the far corner of the room, making himself as small and invisible as possible. He was an intruder here, a privileged observer of a primal, sacred event. He watched, breathless, as her body was racked with the violent, powerful contractions of birth. It was a testament to the raw, beautiful, and brutal power of life. He witnessed her struggle, her grit, her unwavering focus. And then, the first tiny, spotted cub entered the world, impossibly small and fragile. In an instant, the warrior leopard vanished. The creature of immense strength and pain was replaced by something even more powerful, a mother. Her exhaustion seemed to melt away as she began to lick the newborn clean, her rough tongue moving with a tenderness that brought a lump to Mark's throat. A short while later, a second cub followed. The cabin, once a place of solitary human existence, was now filled with the quiet, miraculous sounds of a new family. The morning sun illuminated a scene of perfect, surreal tranquility. The mother leopard lay peacefully on the blanket, her two tiny cubs nestled against her belly, suckling with soft, contented sounds. Her breathing was deep and even, her body finally relaxed. The angry wound on her leg already looked calmer, less inflamed. Mark sat in his chair, a forgotten cup of coffee cold in his hands, simply watching. He felt as though he had been allowed a glimpse into the very heart of creation, a secret never meant for human eyes. This was a bond forged not with words or gestures, but in a shared crucible of vulnerability and trust. By midday, the wildness began to call her back. She stirred, rising with a newfound strength and fluidity. She nudged her cubs with gentle pushes of her nose, herding them toward the door. She turned and looked at Mark, and her golden eyes were clear. It was time. His heart ached with a strange sense of loss, but he understood. He opened the door, and the rich, earthy scent of the forest flooded the cabin. She guided her cubs onto the porch, their clumsy paws stumbling on the unfamiliar wood. But before she vanished, she stopped. She turned her head and held his gaze for one long, powerful moment. It wasn't a simple glance. It was a communication, a silent acknowledgement that this night, this sanctuary, was now a part of the forest's secret history. And then, she and her new family melted into the green depths, leaving behind only an incredible memory. But this story doesn't end here. What the leopard did next will leave you speechless. Weeks later, Mark was on a remote patrol, navigating a treacherous, rocky ridgeline far from any established trail. Without warning, the ground beneath his boots crumbled. The world tilted in a sickening lurch of gravity as he fell, tumbling down a steep, unforgiving ravine. He landed with a final, bone-jarring impact that stole the air from his lungs. A blinding, white-hot agony exploded from his ankle. It was shattered. His radio was smashed beyond repair. He was utterly, terrifyingly alone, a prisoner of gravity and his own broken body. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a chilling despair set in. This was how it ended. Just as his consciousness began to fade, he saw it. A fluid shadow detaching itself from the rocks on the ridge above. His blood turned to ice. A predator, drawn by his weakness. But as the shape came into focus, his breath hitched in his throat. A flash of spotted gold. It was her, the mother leopard. And behind her, two larger, playful cubs tumbled in her wake. His mind reeled in terror. This was the ultimate irony. But she didn't descend. She didn't snarl. She did something that shattered his understanding of the animal kingdom. She lifted her magnificent head and let out a call. It was a deep, resonant, and strangely patterned sound that echoed through the canyon. It wasn't a roar of aggression or a call to her young. It was a beacon, a deliberate, intelligent cry for help, aimed directly toward the distant ranger station. She repeated it again and again, a living siren in the vast, empty wilderness. Hours later, drawn by the strange, persistent calls they couldn't explain, his rescue team found him. As they carefully loaded him onto a stretcher, Mark forced his eyes open and looked up at the ridge one last time. She was still there, a silent silhouette against the star-dusted sky. As their eyes met across the distance, a profound, unspoken understanding passed between them. A life for a life. It was a silent acknowledgement of a debt repaid, a confirmation of a bond that defied all explanation. Then, she turned, and with her cubs in tow, melted back into the shadows of the forest, becoming a legend he would carry in his heart forever. What's the most incredible act of animal intelligence or gratitude you've ever witnessed? Share your stories in the comments below. It's in these moments we're reminded that compassion is a language understood by all living things. If this story moved you, please don't forget to like and subscribe to StorySphere for more unforgettable journeys into the wild heart of our planet.